Jeff Bezos decided to take a joyride to the edge of space. This is right after Richard Branson did that. If I'm not mistaken, I think Elon Musk at some point will do the same thing or something similar. It's kind of hilarious because the rocket that he took looked like a dick. And it reminded everybody of the Austin Powers thing where they ride a dick rocket into space, and now it happened in real life. Hilarious. So the media was sort of losing it over this. They were creaming themselves over this, which is amazing because, as Dave Weigel pointed out, if you go to talk to people in real life, nobody gave a fuck. Like, I hadn't talked to a single person who was like, the Jeff Bezos thing, going to space, yes. He didn't even go to space. He went to the fucking edge of space just like Richard Branson did 7.5 seconds ago. Who gives a fuck? Who cares? Nobody in real life cared about this, but corporate media was just out of their minds over this. I don't understand it. I mean, I guess it only makes sense in the context of elitism. These people who are in mainstream media really believe that billionaires are like billionaires simply because they're super intelligent and they're geniuses and they're, always working on groundbreaking stuff or whatever. And so there's this weird religious cult of billionaire worship, and that might have something to do with it, that all these people in mainstream media go to elite schools and are taught that we live in a meritocracy, and then here we are, one of the leaders of the meritocracy is, doing amazing new things. So maybe that has something to do with it. But a couple things. First of all, Jeff Bezos, after he got back, wearing a cowboy hat. I have no idea why. I've never seen him wear a cowboy hat before. Okay. And he's given an interview, and he says something that pissed everybody off. And when I say everybody, I don't mean the media. They're still sucking off Bezos. Everybody else. You're going to see what he says here, and then we'll come back and talk about it. But you're also going to see in this clip this is just the worst example. I could have picked any of a number of things. This is the worst example of the media fawning cringe fest and some of the arguments that they use to justify why this is so important and why this is so amazing. You're not going to believe this. Take a look.
And then I want to thank every Amazon employee and every Amazon customer, because you guys paid for all of this. So seriously, for every Amazon customer out there and every Amazon employee, thank you from the bottom of my heart very much.
For this country, but the future of science and space and inspiring young people.
Inspiring kids
or
to not want
Charlie,
to sit on the corner and shoot people is important. Nora, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gail.
Nora and Charlie. I wanted to pick up on what Nora said about the billionaire's joyride, because people say this, not to be Debbie Downer, but they say there are so many problems down here on Earth that we should be addressing, that they should be addressing. We're spending all of this money in space to go to space, and to what end? I think you've articulated it very well, but I wish you could put a button on it about why this truly matters.
Yeah, not to make light of this, and people will criticize what I'm about to say. The young man sitting there, excited as he was, that's one less black kid on a corner somewhere getting ready to use a weapon. It is really, really, really important. For us to inspire young people, we have to inform them.
I don't know who that last person is. I don't want to know who that last person is. But that was one of the worst points I've ever heard in my life. So there's a black kid watching the rocket take off and land, and this person says, the reason why this is important is because now that black kid is going to think about this moving forward instead of doing what black kids usually do, which is commit crimes and shoot people and go sell drugs on the corner or something. Are you out of your mind? Why was the default assumption that a random black kid is definitely going to end up being a criminal? You want to talk about a bigoted assumption? What percentage of young black kids end up becoming criminals? He makes it seem like it's 80% or something absurd. What are you saying? Well, now you gave this kid something to care about. Was it not possible to care about anything else? Was it not possible to care about business or healthcare or art? Or why is the assumption, well, obviously, this kid was going to be a criminal. Look at him. But now he's going to think nonstop about going to space, which is something that probably 99.9% of people who want to do it will never be able to do. What is wrong with the media? They really are in their own elitist bubble. Who does this represent? Who watches this and nods in agreement? Yes, yes. And by the way, even if you buy that horrendous logic, this used to be something that we did for the commons. It was the public. It was NASA. It was an American project. Now it's some billionaire douchebag. Which leads me to the first comment where he says, thank you to every Amazon customer and every Amazon employee because you guys paid for it. You thought this was going to be an endearing thing to say? Yeah, I'm sure that every single worker who had to piss in a jar or shit in a bag or fainted in the factory because it was too fucking hot, I'm sure now they think, well, this was all worth it because my asshole boss made it to the edge of space for 3.5 seconds. What? Why does anybody... I simply don't understand why this is a big deal to anybody. Anybody. With NASA, you know, we went to the moon. And now somehow getting to the edge of space is like a big deal? Why is that a big deal? Oh, because it was done by a billionaire and maybe this will lead to commercialization of the... Why don't we spend the money? I think the criticism is 100% correct. Take that money and use it here for good. Jeff Bezos has enough money to eliminate world hunger. He can eliminate homelessness overnight in the U.S. like that. Why are we not... And forget it, him doing it. Tax the motherfucker and redistribute. He's got over $100 billion in net worth. Are you kidding me? There should definitely be a wealth tax, and you should definitely take that money and eliminate student loan debt, you know, give everybody health care, give everybody free college. There's a million things you could do. Not all with just Bezos' money, but if you tax the wealthy, tax billionaires, tax and redistribute. These people don't understand what it's like in the real world for real people. They don't get it. They do not get it. We're going to cover a story later. Medical debt nearly doubled over the past 3 or 4 years. Doubled! And that's just the debt that went into collections. That doesn't even include the debt that's yet to go into collections. So it's probably at least double that. I don't know how you get through these people. They're elitist. They're in their own bubble. They don't understand the pain that's out there. And they're jovial over this bullshit. Listen, again, I'm not against space travel. When you look at what happened with NASA and you look at the government research that goes into the problem solving for something like space travel, you get a lot of technology that can have practical use. So I'm not against it. But it should be done as an American project. And also it should be funded by taxing these motherfuckers who are now taking joyrides on their own. None of his workers should have to piss in jars and shit in bags and faint in the factory. We need new rules and regulations around that. Got to have better climate control in these various factories, in these warehouses, I should say. Got to have stricter overtime rules and hours, and you should have near universal unionization so workers actually have a fighting chance to live a decent life. It's not a coincidence that back when we had higher unionization rates in the U.S., we had a thriving middle class and working class. And other developed countries that have near universal unionization have thriving middle classes and working classes. So that's what we have to do. And the media is not addressing any of these serious things. And what they're doing is giving a billionaire in a cowboy hat a smooth hand job over some lame bullshit. It's astonishing. It really is. All these fucking problems. And now we got these jackasses going to the edge of space. I mean, they will try. You'll have a billionaire try harder to colonize Mars than you'll have governments on this planet fight climate change. Think about how mental that is. Think about it. In New York, it's been hazy for the past week and a half. You want to know why? Because smoke from the wildfires out west has blanketed the Northeast. We haven't seen the sun in the Northeast in over a week. And this asshole's going to the edge of space. And it's more likely a billionaire tries to colonize Mars than the government does anything sufficient to fight back against climate change, or even get us off of fossil fuels, move to all-electric vehicles, have solar power more widespread, or whatever. Oh, man. Again, listen, from a selfish perspective, from a greedy perspective, I should not be complaining, because the fact that these guys are this bad and this out of touch leaves a lane wide open for YouTube assholes like myself to come out here and say basic common sense things and attract an audience. But you know what? I'd rather have a much smaller audience and much less support for this show if it meant that mainstream media did their job, because if they did their job, the country would be in a much better position.